Hello, this is Alex Calvo Garcia. You're listening to the Iron Hour podcast.
Now then, thanks for joining us and welcome to this episode of the Iron Hour podcast. As always, a huge thank you to our sponsors, Best Blanks Wholesale, No Film Photography and Videography, AC Photography and Videography, and of course, Hole in the Wand. Bit of a different format to the podcast this week because we are, of course, on different time zones. So myself and Max kicking us off, and then I'll hand over to Max, and you'll do the usual podcast with some familiar faces, I'm sure. So Max, thanks for joining us. How are you doing? It's looking bright and sunny. Is it midday?
It is. It's just about midday here. It is actually quite sunny and scunny. I don't know if it's sweet in Alabama. That was
I
the
don't know if
best
you
one
can
I could come
see,
up with.
those of you watching, you can probably see out of the window. It's pitch black. It's just gone 6 a.m. So with early bird catches the worm and all of that, Max.
That's commitment to the podcast, that Barrett. That's commitment. That.
Well, when you are an award-nominated podcast, you have to put the effort in.
Well, an award-winning and an award-nominated podcast. If we think of last year's award, so yeah, sounds good to me.
Fantastic.
Sorry, that was just me sneezing.
Having an allergic reaction to winning. You're not used to it.
Hopefully, Gareth can edit that bit out, but knowing Gaz, he'll keep that in for the authenticity of it.
Well, speaking of winning, not quite, but unbeaten certainly. 9 games into the season, and we're yet to taste league defeat. It's been an impressive start, hasn't it, Max?
It has been, and I think if anybody had offered us, more than 2 points a game, five wins, 4 draws in the playoffs at this stage of the season, we'd have all been delighted. And actually, I was thinking about this. I was talking to my dad earlier this morning. Obviously, we've got the 3 tough games coming up in a week. Southend, York, and Carlisle. I mean, to be blunt, even if let's say we lose all 3. We're still then in a position where we've taken 19 points from 12 games. We'll be in mid-table. If you'd have offered me that at the start of the season, 12 games in, I'd have taken it. So it's been a great start. I just hope that when the bumps in the road come, and they will come at some point because that's football, that Iron fans don't overreact because it has been a great start to the season.
I think Butler's been so impressive so far this season. I know getting the promotion under his belt, that buys you time anyway, but it's really impressed me how he's taken to the different scenario, the different kind of application that's needed in terms of managing a team that's going for promotion and managing a team with different expectations. And you would assume sometimes that the pressure is off, but it's quite the opposite because, like you say, a couple of defeats and it could all change in terms of how the vibe is around the club. But I think he's handled it really well. Has he impressed you as much as he has himself?
So yes, I think tactically we've been more ambitious this season than I would have necessarily
It's a really,
expected. There's been,
a really good point.
there's been games where we maybe expected us to start 5 at the back. Back to Tamworth away, for example, even Forest Green away. And look, the first half an hour against Boreham Wood last night. Obviously, we're recording this on Thursday. We were under the pump, and there was lots of talk where I stood about how tactically can we try and stop this. I might have been inclined to switch to 5 at the back just to try and get the fullbacks who were under a lot of hammer last night and did a pretty decent job under very difficult circumstances to get them a bit of extra protection. What Butler did instead was, rather than going for the 4-3-3/4-5-1, he switched to a diamond. And I think that worked. It worked out with possession because Boreham Wood couldn't quite play through us in the middle of the park as much as well. But it also bought us more time in their half of the field because then when we got the ball up to Dawson, we got the ball up to Howe, they weren't quite as isolated. They were closer together and it stuck a little bit more for us. So, yes, I have been. I think, tactically it's been good. We played good football, and particularly against Boreham Wood on Wednesday night, I thought his substitutions worked. I thought his tactical switch worked, and he was a real positive influence for us trying to get something out of the game. I mean, you listened to it on the radio, Barry, didn't you, for most of it? How did it come across?
Yeah, really good commentary from Humberside as always. First half, it sounded like we were under a lot of pressure. It almost felt like getting at 1-0 at half time and job done, because then you can have a tactical shift have a team talk, reset, reassess what the ambitions and what the goals are for this game. And I was relieved it was only 1-0 at half time, because it probably different to you. I thought we were getting overrun from what I could hear. It sounded like we were getting overrun in the middle of the park in that first half. And the tactical shift that came at halftime seemed to relieve the pressure. So I wasn't there, so it's difficult. But my interpretation of what I could hear on the radio was probably the opposite of that. So I was more impressed with the tactical versatility that Butler showed at halftime to switch things up. So that was my kind of assessment of what I could hear. I thought we missed Ewing. That was mentioned a few times.
Definitely. Every one of the ground was, so even possibly even more so than Whitehall in that first 45 minutes, because the ball wasn't, when Boreham Wood were pressing us, and to be fair to them, they did, really consistently press us over the course of the 90 minutes. Just that little bit of strength under pressure that Ewing brings it's always going to be a miss. You're always going to miss quality players like that.
What was the vibe like in the stadium when we go 1-0 down within a minute of kickoff? Because Boyce coming back into the team, when you see that, it's a huge sigh of relief, because thank God for that. We've got our captain back. We've got a little bit of maturity, a little bit of calmness on the ball at the back. And then within 45 seconds, he's shelling it into his own goal.
So, I mean, it was a good goal. I mean, so the lad after Boyce, so Boyce gets a touch on it, but it's not an own goal.
Okay.
Their lad does get a touch on it after Boyce. I would say, in fairness to Boreham Wood, I thought it was a good goal. The ball in behind Denton was genuine, real quality, and their number 17, the right winger, had but all of their wingers did. The lad stood next to me on the terrace with about 15 minutes to go, turned around and went, effing hell, if these got about 8 wingers. They had real quality out wide, and I thought that was reflected in the goal, particularly in sort of the first 35, 40 minutes. They tried that ball in behind the fullbacks probably 4 or 5 times. So, look, it was a good ball out wide to him. It was a good ball across the face. I've got a lot of sympathy with centre-halves when they're backpedaling like that towards your own goal. You've got to do something. He did have to do something because the Boreham Wood player was behind him. He got something on the cross. He just didn't get enough on it. I wouldn't really blame Boyce, because once a good quality winger is at the byline and is able to pull the ball back across the face, a good ball across that corridor of uncertainty basically guarantees a goal. I agree with what you said in terms of we did do well to, in the end, withstand the pressure and get to half-time at 1-0. I thought Rory Watson had a really good first hour. And although the only thing I would say to that is actually Beeston probably should have equalised. All right, I was behind the Donny Road end, but even people I was chatting to after the game who were in the main stand were saying that it was a really good chance either side of the goalkeeper, and it's probably 1-1. But look, it finished 1-1. I thought it was a game of 2 halves. I thought, based on our improvements in the second half, particularly with the ball, that we probably were just about value for the point. So, it was a good point. I really enjoyed the game last night.
Good stuff. Just before I disappear, Max, let's have a real quick chat about the departure of Matt Roberts, because that was announced at the early stages of this week. And I don't know if it broke just too soon for us to talk about that, have a discussion about that in the podcast earlier this week. So let's have a quick touch base on that one now. Matt Roberts leaving after, almost a year here at Scunthorpe United. He's overseen a promotion. I guess that's certainly something he could claim is on his CV. A lot of changes kind of behind the scenes, particularly in terms of the way the hospitality is run and the catering. What kind of legacy do you think Matt Roberts leaves departing Scunthorpe United?
So I think you touched on it there. I think the off-field stuff that's happened, particularly the off-field hospitality, the drinks, that's a positive. That is in a better place now than when it was when Matt took over. Obviously, the club put out a statement saying that he departed to take up a new opportunity and for sort of family and personal reasons. So I think we wish him the very, very best of luck. That's the thing in any walk of life, isn't it? People should be able to take on new opportunities. You give them a platform to go on and do that. So I'm sure that he will. And I think Matt's been a really positive influence on the club. We saw that at the Fans Forum, which the INR podcast hosted, and obviously you emceed and chaired. So well done. And yeah, really just wishing Matt the very, very best of luck on all the future opportunities he's got ahead of him, because I'm sure they'll be bright.
Right, well, the sun's coming up here, so I need to make a move. So I'm going to hand over to you, Max, for the rest of the podcast. Thanks for having me on for the first 10 minutes, and best of luck, mate. I'm sure you'll smash it.
Thanks very much, Barra. Up the iron. Hello, Iron fans. Thank you to Barra for recording that little 10-minute opening segment with myself. As Barra said, he's handed the reins over for the rest of the podcast over to myself, Max Bell. Very, very happy to say for the rest of the podcast, we're joined by two of the usual panel here on the INR podcast. Let's go first of all to the People's Princess, to the man in white, people's favourite vlogger. I don't know, whatever you want to call him. Gareth, Iron Army, how you doing, mate?
I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, just dressed in white. Just got a t-shirt on. Being next door's garden, getting a dog, just with a t-shirt on. Why not?
Not a lot I can add to that, really. And Marco, blink twice if your cactus are treating you well.
Oh, man, I'm fed up with it. The kitchen and is getting redone. I've still got no office, so it's a make-do situation. But yeah, I'm glad to be here. Talking about last night's here, obviously result with Boreham Wood. So yeah, no, I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. Right, you've mentioned it there, Marco, but just before we go on to discuss the Boreham Wood game, I do ironically have a message from Barra that he has asked me to pass on, because he forgot to mention it in the little opening segment that we did earlier, which is that we want to plug an organisation called Scunthorpe Tomorrow as a community-focused podcast. So you can join Scunthorpe Tomorrow at Heslin Park on Friday the 10th of October between 8:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. as Place Lab 4 brings together voices, ideas and actions to help us all shape the Scunthorpe of tomorrow. Today, our very own Barra hosted the last event. He was very good, I have to say, at the UCNL, and this event promises to be just as good, and probably on the basis that Barra's not hosting it, it is likely to be even better. Scunthorpe Tomorrow have been really good at bringing people from across the town, from all walks of disciplines and walks of life, whether or not it's sport, whether or not it's community, so education, anything like that. So do check them out on socials if you haven't seen, or drop Barra a message and he can point you in the right direction. Speaking of the right direction, now we've got that little plug out of the way, Gareth. Wednesday night, Boreham Wood.
Yeah.
1 point gained or 2 points dropped?
I think it's got to be a point gained, hasn't it? After that first half. I do feel if we'd have had another 10 minutes, though, we'd have got all 3 points. I thought, we're getting on the front foot, and I feel we'd have got another goal, but it wasn't to be. But yeah, what a start they had. Ball put in, and Boyce put it into his own net after 42 seconds.
See, people have said it. People have said it was an own goal, but after it hits Boyce, their lad at the back post definitely taps it in.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, honestly.
I'm seeing it's put down as rush, and I'm thinking, I'm sure Boyce.
Yeah. So genuinely, obviously,
right.
It's the only time being behind the goal we've got better view than you on the halfway line. So the lad gets to the byline, pulls it back. Boyce does get a deflection on it, and it is probably going in, but their lad at the back post definitely goes, oh, thank you very much. Yard out, bang.
Well, fair enough then.
So just before Boyce turns up with the boxing gloves saying it wasn't an own goal, bugger off. But what was it, 40 seconds, 42 seconds, something like that, Gaz?
That, wasn't it? Something like that. It was a quick start, and not what you ideally want against somebody who's up there with you as well. I think we've all been to games where either Scunthorpe have scored early doors or other teams, and kind of hanging on at times. If you're that team that scored early, sometimes it works against you, and it just gives. But the good thing is that you've got, as Scunthorpe had, they've got 90 minutes to find a goal. It's not happened in the 89th minute, so you're still in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I think back to game playing the Championship against Leicester. They took the lead after 2 or 3 minutes, spent quite literally the next 90 minutes battering us, but couldn't make it 2-0. But then in the 93rd minute, Martin Wolford steps up to make it 1-1. So you can sometimes lead games. Well, think of Forest Green. You can sometimes lead games for literally 90 minutes and change, and not come away with the 3 points. Marco, obviously, I think back to the last 2 games we've played at home, Truro on the Saturday and Boreham Wood on the Wednesday. Boreham Wood finished 4 places below Truro last season. You wouldn't really have believed it based on those 2 performances, would you?
Oh, no, without a doubt. I mean, the way they started the game was really impressive, and the polar opposite to how Truro approached, obviously coming to Glanford Park. So yeah, a lot gets said about that National League North and South divide, about the standard. North seems to have a little bit more quality, and I think Wednesday, for a team that came 5th in the National League South, I think that sort of like maybe threw a spanner in the works, because they were, first half especially, were a very good footballing team.
Yeah.
And one of the better ones we've seen at Glanford Park. I mean, I've seen a couple of people on Twitter saying like, we're talking about them like the world beaters, it's Boreham Wood, but you forget where we are now. This is the standard, and no, credit to. I think we've obviously got a good manager in Luke Gerrard, and they play good football. They play the right way, and something similar to obviously what we're trying to do. But yeah, to come out the box like they did, I think I was watching it on my phone, and I was just like, we need half time pronto. And like Gareth said, another 10 minutes, and I think we'd have won the game. But I feel like another 10 minutes that first half, we could have been 2 or 3 down. So it really is just a case of swings and roundabouts. It without sounding cliche, it was the definition of a 2-half game. It was they were fantastic the first half. And I think once we realised that they weren't world beaters, and we sort of did have that belief in ourselves, I think we took it to them. And like I said, I think we were lucky not to get all 3 points in the end. But overall, I think, yeah, a point apiece is fair enough.
Yeah, and I think to that second half as well, obviously Butler changed shape to more of a diamond, which I think worked for us reactively, both in and out of possession. Because certainly after the half time, we pressed Boreham Wood a lot higher. And I
think it suits Roberts more.
Yeah, and I certainly think it suited Dawson more as well. In that 4-3-3 shape, when he's through the middle, particularly if it's not going for you that great, you can be a little bit isolated.
Yeah.
But they got Howe closer to him, they got Roberts closer to him, and we pressed them much harder at the field. I often think as a Scunny fan, in the word sort of way, look, winning 4-0 is great, don't get me wrong, but those games where for the last 20-25 minutes and you need a goal and you're attacking the Donny Road end and the crowd's getting behind you, like that's, as a Scunny fan in a way, those are sort of my favourite moments. When it makes a massive difference when we're not attacking the away end in the second half, and there's something on the line against a good side. Gareth, obviously, just thinking of that second half. Obviously, when we got to the end and they give the man of their match awards, there was one of which went to Watson. Were there any players in particular who stood out for you? Could you have given it to maybe 3 or 4 players? Would you have given it to Watson? What was your thinking?
On the first half performance, I'd have given it to Watson.
Yeah.
Some of the saves he made kept us in it. We should have been 3-4-0 down at half time. It could have easily been 3 or 4-0 down if it weren't for Watson, some of the saves he pulled off. So, yeah, what I said to Joe next to me, I said, for me, Watson deserves the man of the match. But yeah, I wouldn't have given it to anyone else. I just thought he kept us in that game. He got us to half time at 1-0 and performed in the second half as well.
And then Marco, yourself, obviously you get a bit of a different vantage point when you're watching it on DAZN. Was there anyone in the Ironside in particular who you were impressed with?
Yeah, it's hard to argue with Watson. This is the only time we've all agreed, is it? I would have probably gone the same. I think a special shout out, especially when the shape changed. I was impressed. Beeston's work rate and his fitness, I think, goes very unnoticed. I thought it was good again yesterday. But again, another unsung hero for me. Rowley was fantastic again. And I'd love to see, I know they're all wearing the trackers on the vests. I'd love to just have a look at how much distance and he actually covers, because I thought he was fantastic yesterday. I felt a little bit sorry for the for both Denton and obviously
Starbuck.
yesterday, because especially the first half, we were very exposed.
Tough game to be a fullback, I thought.
Yeah, very exposed, and obviously in those conditions, a heavy pitch, and like I said, we got doubled up on numerous times, and especially Denton in that first half, he looked very vulnerable.
The ball in behind, but they played for their goals, absolutely inch perfect. Really, they played and particularly as we expect Denton to push for. We want them to push on and try to create. Like they must have played that ball 5 or 6 times, and it really was dangerous for them, wasn't it?
100%. But again, and that's credit to Denton and Starbuck. Second half, shutting up shop. Second game, it happened a lot less. I thought they had a good game in the end. But yeah, first half, again, no fault of their own. It was a case of 2-on-1 throughout the first half. But yeah, as standouts, I would stick with Watson, definitely deserving man of the match. But yeah, for me, nobody particularly had a bad game. If I'm being super critical, and I mean twatty critical.
Why break the habit of a lifetime? But
yeah,
Go on.
Roberts, again, we said it last week. He still doesn't seem to be getting to that standard that we know Roberts is. Still hasn't had a bad game. I know he scored.
Well, yeah, so I would say he scored. Look, don't get me wrong, he scored from an open goal 2 yards out, but who cares?
But he's having these games now where he's playing. It's really hard. He set the standard last year to such a high standard that we sort of assume.
What was it? 21 goals from a midfielder is ridiculous.
Stunning, and he's not even having bad games, but he's just. I don't know what it is. He's just not having that wow factor for a minute. And look, Roberts will be as annoyed as anyone else, and you can see it's coming. I think we're all just sort of waiting for that to click, and look, let's hope that's on Saturday. But yeah, I think it is coming. But like I said, that's being super critical. Like I said, nobody had a bad game, but yeah.
I just say as well how good Bellahoon looked when he came on.
Great shout. Yeah.
That pace he's got as well. I thought he maybe should have been on a bit earlier, just with the pace. But
and the physicality of it as well. He was big. He was strong when he was. When you have a centre half playing at fullback, you often think of like a Cliff Burn or even somebody like a Richard Hines where they're not bombing on. But when the ball was breaking to him and there was a little bit of space in front of him down the right hand side, he looked such a threat, didn't he?
I've got a question for both of you.
Go on.
Saturday, Southend. Who are you starting right back?
Well, I think he will start Starbuck. But if
who would you start?
I probably would start Starbuck because I don't think he's done anything to deserve to be in.
So no Bellahoon.
No, but he's clearly not for me. But he's clearly an option at right back and centre half as well. Actually, now to be fair, or if there's any point this season where you think we might play 5 at the back, he could fit in quite nicely as the right hand of those 3.
I think I'd go Starbuck as well.
Yeah,
just because he's not lost yet, has he?
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was 2 minutes into the game yesterday. I thought it was coming. But no, a really good point with Bellahoon. I think he's been brilliant, and he's definitely knocking on Butler's door.
Yeah, and just in terms of players who weren't available last night, Gareth, I'm thinking obviously in terms of Ollie Ewing and Danny Whitehall. Do you feel like we missed them?
I think you always miss players like that, and there were a lot of people at half time saying, "Would you have made a difference to the score, to the game?" And I think it's easy to say he would have done because of how well he's played in the games, but it was the pace on the wings. He's not going to stop that pace on the wings when they've got the ball bombing forward. So yeah, of course we missed him because he's a good player, but I don't think it would have made that much difference to them attacking going forward, if that makes sense, on the wing. So, and Whitehall's just a miss anyway, isn't he? Yeah. So just that player that he is.
And What about you? What about you, Marco? Would we have, particularly in that first half when we were sort of struggling to get hold of the ball, do you think Ewing in particular might have made a difference?
Yeah, I think your first two started, we win last night. I think Ewan in particular. I think obviously we spoke about Dawson looking isolated earlier. Um, we've not. I think Whitehall sort of goes and finds trouble, keeps the defenders occupied, and he'll make that game his own. Whereas Dawson's not there yet. That's nothing. That's not to say he won't ever get there. But yeah, like I said, and obviously Ewan's been so impressive, arguably the best player in the league. Um, Starting attacks. Not only that, he gets stuck in and he breaks up attacks. Like I said, I think with them two, you notice a big difference, and I do think we win the game, and I think we look a little bit more controlled in that first half. And I don't. That being said, I think them two not playing probably made for a more entertaining game because it was literally like a basketball game. I think if I saw not just yourself, Gareth, there was another guy did a vlog. I think something about topless terrace or something. Topless on the terrace.
That sounds like a great name for Jack Evans.
But and so somebody like that come in who obviously isn't a Scunthorpe fan or a Boreham Wood fan. I think it was a really good game to come and watch because it wasn't like your typical 1-1 draw, or it was end to end. And yeah, I feel like if Ewan was in there, there'd have been a little bit more control and would have got our foot on the ball a bit more and started attacks naturally. And so yeah, look, I think we really did miss them yesterday. And look, Butler said on the radio after that they probably could have played. They weren't far off. They did fitness test before the game, but it looks like they're both going to be in for Southend at the weekend. So yeah, looking forward to that. Going in with a reasonably fully fit team. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Do we think as well though there was a lot of expectation on Dawson after his performance at
Yeah,
Truro
100%.
against Truro?
He's
And I think a lot of
he's his own worst enemy. That performance on Saturday was absolutely outstanding, wasn't he? And
I think people are expecting the exact same thing against Boreham Wood, and they were thinking, well, why is he not doing this? Why is he not doing that?
Yeah.
Completely different team.
Yeah, exactly. And they'll have done the homework. They'll have seen. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest, Truro, without being disrespectful, they were poor, and Dawson was able to win the knockdowns. He had time and space to obviously get that shot off on the turn. Boreham Wood of a different animal, and he's not going to get that same opportunity. So look, Joey Dawson didn't have a bad game, but he's not going to have the key to the city like he did at Truro every game. So he'll learn from that. He's only young, but yeah, I do think Whitehall's my number one at the minute.
And just in terms of what you were mentioning there, Marco, I actually thought that was endorsed as well by the Boreham Wood manager's post-match interview. It's on YouTube. If anybody hasn't seen it, where he said that he'd gone to Butler and said that was a great advert for what was a National League game, and what last year would have been a National League North or South game, really, two newly promoted sides. And I put it on Twitter after the game last night and was saying that if I'd been a neutral at that game and didn't really care about the result, I'd have honestly thought it was one of the most entertaining games of football I'd watched in ages. Because we talk about how in the first half it was all Boreham Wood, but Beeston probably should have scored, shouldn't he? And then we think to the second half. Boreham Wood still had a couple of good chances on the break, and when it gets to that 1-1 and it's two footballing sides, and they're both still trying to win in the 93rd, 94th, 95th minute. You don't see that very often. I think usually if it's 1-1 going into injury time, one of the sides settles. So the fact that both of them went, do you know what? Actually, no, we're going to try and win this game. If anything, I actually thought the worst performance was probably from the referee. But hey, look, that's football, isn't it?
Can we just mention, you mentioned there about Beeston should have scored. Can we just mention Starbucks air shot?
Yeah, it's very good point.
The ball came across and I thought he's gonna bang this. He's gonna bang this, and he did absolutely nothing. Just missed it. I was gutted. I just thought he's seen the glory there, hasn't he? Took his eye off the ball.
It sat up for him nicely.
Oh.
Yeah, and then you think of the second half. You think of Sellers Fleming's 1-on-1.
Yeah,
which is probably our best chance to win the game. But you also think of Carlton
dragging it
chance as well. But then even at 1-0, I think at Boreham Wood's chance after what would it have been about 25 minutes, the 17, the right winger, he sort of almost doesn't get his footing right. He blazes over from 6-7 yards. After the left winger, the lad from Millwall, I have to say that I wouldn't have fancied being Starbuck there because he was quick, he was direct, he was 2-footed. As a fullback, what can you do in that situation? And the answer is probably not a lot. So yeah, my prediction of 1-1 was right, but frankly, I'm still not quite sure how, because that game could have very easily ended 2-2 or 3-3 if either side had been a little bit more clinical. So yeah. Anyway, I think we'll wrap the Boreham Wood review there. Marco, before we move on, that you've got quite a good update to share on the old FPL front, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been a busy week, hasn't it, for us guys? We're delighted. We got approached a couple of weeks ago now. And so the George Inn in Barton.
Which is an excellent pub, I have to say. For anybody who ever passes through Barton, it's definitely worth popping in for a pint.
I'm yet to go, but I'm thinking I'll be going when I actually win the FPL because...
Oh, yeah, okay. Fighting talk already.
So, obviously, we've already well over 300 members. It's been super successful. Just to make it a little bit more interesting, there's now £100 bar tap up for grabs.
So, obviously, am I right in thinking that Tyler Denton is second in the league?
I can see me and Dents going for
when we get to the end of the season and we've mounted a late playoff charge, and we rocking up to Glanford Park and giving Tyler Denton £100 bar tab.
That baby, some night though.
Yeah, no, excellent. So thank you very much to the Georgian for reaching out on this and sponsoring the FPL. We'll give them a few shout outs as we go through the season. You may well have seen it on our socials as well. So an excellent prize there. Really, I think you could have a really good sort of family night out like that, or just a really good piss up, depending on what your point of view is. If Marco wins it, I suspect I know which one it'll be.
Taking me granny that out.
Yeah, you say that now. See if you're still saying that come May. But yeah, no, as I say, big shout out, big thanks to the Georgian in Barton for that. Really happy to have them on board. So yeah, an extra motivation if you didn't already have one to win the FPL this season. Speaking of winning and awards, Marco, I'll come back to you, I guess, briefly. Just in case anybody hasn't seen, do you want to talk about our award nomination?
Well, I've just bought my bow tie, so that can only mean one thing. And so those who missed the last podcast, I'm sure you've all seen it on our social media. We've been nominated, which is a win in itself.
Massive, absolutely massive.
Yeah, the FCA awards, which is huge. Look, even the most optimistic, we're in there with some unbelievable content creators around the grounds. You'll have all seen the guys who do Dorking. I forgot the name.
Bunch of amateurs.
Yeah.
Amateurs. Some absolutely huge names with thousands and thousands of followers. And look, to be nominated and mentioned in the same breath of those, it's a win for us. So look, we'll be there. If you can vote us and you like what we do, look, we're here every week. You guys are the reason we do it. It's thousands of views every week. If you all want to vote for us, it's on our socials. You can't miss it. I'll put it up again after this post. But yeah, just look, your support's massively appreciated, and we can't thank you enough. So to even be there, we're very grateful. And look, we'll enjoy it. As Neil Warnock would say, we'll be disciplined. We'll enjoy it by being disciplined.
Will you? Are you sure?
We'll have a good night, and no matter what happens. But yeah, look, we really appreciate being there. So a huge shout out to the FCAs. Good luck to everyone there. So yeah, really grateful and feeling really privileged to be involved.
Excellent.
I'm just checking. You have got more than a bow tie, haven't you? I just want to clarify.
It's not going around my neck.
Oh, okay, right. Let's move swiftly on. Let's look ahead to the Southend game this weekend. Gareth, obviously, Southend is going to be the second of a run of 4 sides above us in the league. A really, really tough test. Anytime, actually. I would think of any trip to Southend in any division as being a tough test.
Yeah.
What are you hoping for ahead of this weekend?
A win, hopefully. But no, I just think it'd be nice not to lose again. So if we can pick a point up away, that'd be good. But looking at some of their results, Eastleigh beat them last night, didn't they? I know it was at Eastleigh, but when you look at the results they've had, they've not been amazing at times. They've did the draw with Boston. They've had a few draws in there that you'd maybe not expect them to have against teams that are lower down. So yeah, I think it'll be another tight game. And like you say, we don't really do well at Southend. So no, I'd like to think we can go into it with the belief that we can get something out of it.
Definitely, and Marco, I know you're making the trip down on the old Howden Express, the choo choo in the morning. Will it be champagne and a bit of wine on the journey home after 3 points?
I hope so. I've got my cheese platter ready. But no, I'm looking forward to it. Good day. Last time I went there, I believe it was Simon Cox. This is a throwback. He scored. I'm not being rude here. A cross-come shot, as they call it. And that, believe it or not, that was a game where Rory got thrown in into that game as well, and he actually performed really well, barring that conceding that goal. And that's the last time I went Southend away, so it'll be good to go back. Look, it's a completely different side. That was an EFL game. We're both where we are, whether rightly or wrongly. And no, I'm looking forward to it. And look, like Gareth said, I think we have to go in with a belief that we could get something from this game, whether that be a point or look, the aim's got to be free. I know Butler won't be going into this to try and get a point. It will be to win the game. And with key players, obviously Ewing, Whitehall, who are massive for us, coming back in. Yeah, why not? Look, I think we lost to Eastleigh yesterday. I thought we outplayed Eastleigh when we played them down at their place. So, yeah, why not? I think we'll have every belief, and rightly so.
So, just before we sort of perhaps squeeze a score prediction or two out of yours, just looking forward in terms of the planning and the next couple of games, because obviously we mentioned that we thought Watson, really was terrific, especially in the first half and the first hour of the game. Steve Wilkins has messaged me on Facebook with a really excellent question. He said they talked about how in Butler's post-match interview, he said that he thought that Campbell should be back this weekend, but he's been saying that for at least a couple of weeks now. However, if Campbell is not back for next Wednesday's match at York, what do we do for a keeper? Because presumably Rory Watson will not be able to play against his parent club. Do we trust in Johnson for one match, or do we try and find a short-term solution? What do you guys think? Who fancies that one?
Go for it, Gareth.
Thank you, Marco. If Fitzsimon's available, just for the one game. No, I think it's a tough one, that, isn't it? Because they're not going to let Watson play. Ultimately, you wouldn't do it, would you? So hopefully Campbell is back.
He said, I think on Humberside after the game yesterday, Butler said Campbell will be in the squad on Saturday.
Yeah.
So I don't think we have to worry. And I think that's obviously a good opportunity for Campbell to come in and try and get his place back.
Interesting that you say squad then. So are you imagining bench for Southend, start for York, and then, because it would be very, very harsh to drop Watson for this weekend after that performance, you would think.
I don't think he drops Watson, and not only on this weekend. I think prior to that, I think he's been brilliant. I think with this run of form, I know there's been the odd mistake here and there, but I think I've never really been overly concerned about the goalkeeping situation in the last 5-6 games. I don't know about you guys, but it's never really concerned. But there was moments yesterday with he seemed to rush for counter attacks when he made some really good claims. Then obviously he wanted to start us off quickly, which wasn't always the right choice.
Well, I think that was clearly a tactic.
We've been told, yeah, you can see that.
I lost track of how many times Fitzsimmons would do that last season, and it wouldn't always come off for him either, and that's with his distribution.
Yeah, but yesterday was very obvious that that was a tactic. I think you're 100% right, but possibly not up to Joey Dawson's. Maybe not that man to be running and getting on the end of him. But yeah, no, I think Roy Watson's definitely got the number one shirt at the moment. And look, the York game will be a good chance for Campbell to stake his claim again, because I thought it was fantastic before the injury. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think Watson's got to start on Saturday for me as well. Southend,
yeah.
After his performances of late, you can't just drop him and think we'll get Campbell ready for York. No, he's got to start. He's with him in the squad. You've got to look at it and think we've got more chance of picking up something. I think so starting 11. So yeah, he starts for me as well. And then when it comes to the York game, whoever goes in goal is just going to be thrown in, aren't they? Either Campbell or Johnson, depending on what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be interesting to see what York were like. I think they were given the fact that they finished second last season, I think there were quite a few people's pre-season favourites for promotion. They perhaps started a little bit slower than they would have liked. Obviously, sacked their manager probably a bit harshly after 4 games, but I believe York are away at Forest Green on Saturday, so that might be a good. Yeah, Marco's giving that a bit of a nod. So that might be a good mark for both of them. That's a big game for both York and Forest Green to send a message potentially to the rest of the league that they really are serious about going for the title. So we'll see how that one goes. Excellent question, Stephen. One that we'll certainly keep an eye on for after Saturday's game, assuming that Campbell is back in the squad and whether or not he's on the bench or not. I've also had a question from AD Winter. Big shout out to AD, regular listener of the pod, who says, "I'm so impressed with our talents, but would you cash in on our lads in January and risk missing promotion this season? Obviously, in and around the playoffs. He mentions Howe, Ewing, Dawson, etc. But I think the logic would stand for any interest in any of our players in the January transfer window. Marco, what do you think if clubs come sniffing around players in January? Would you give them the old 2-fingered salute? Or does every player have their price?
I think so. I think in the position we're in at the minute, I think absolutely. I think we've got to listen to our offers.
But then I think back to last season where it was rumoured, and I believe some of them rumours were confirmed that a couple of clubs in the window were sniffing around Cal Roberts.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I mean, a lot of it depends on the player. If they're happy playing here, if they want to sign an extended contract, where we are in those said contracts. I mean, your main example of a big talking point at the minute is Ewing. Obviously, it's common knowledge that it's only here for a year. But
then we don't yet know the absolute ins and outs of that contract.
No, of course not.
And Ewing, I believe, is 22. So if he's under 24 and it's an English club who come in for him, you would have some protection under the Bosman rules.
Yeah, of course, but I mean, if a big offer came in January, look, unless we've came into a lot of money, a big Saudi billionaire fancies us, I do think we'll be listening to all offers. I think.
Could I just throw an extra question in there? Could it also depend where exactly in the league we are? If we're 10th and you're thinking, right, we've had a respectable season of very very good consolidation, but if you are in the bit of a hunt, if you're still in the playoffs, if we are where we are now, if you're 5th, you're 6th, you're 7th, and you're thinking promotion might be worth a lot more money to us than what we might recoup in transfer sales, could you hold firm?
Yeah, look, this is why we don't run football clubs.
There's a lot of reasons.
But yeah, look, there's no right or wrong answer. We could sell Ewing, and God forbid he could break his leg the next day. Do you know? It's one of those things. It's there's no right or wrong time. We could be top of the league, but I really do think as much.
Right. Well, hang on. Here's my prediction. If we are top of the league going into January, we don't sell players. I don't think.
No.
Not if we're top.
I think we'd have the price.
but it's one thing if you're in the playoffs. It's one thing if you're mid-table. But if we're top, because you'd be, the National League proves that you often need 100 points to win this league. If we start the first half of the season that well, getting giddy just thinking about it.
I think we'll know after this next month. This next month's huge for on the pitch. But yeah, it's a really good question and one that will absolutely divide opinion. But yeah, for me, they have the price. And again, that's a lot of credit to Butler and the squad for sort of getting these players. Obviously, your Howes, your Roberts, we all knew his quality, and obviously he came in on that mega contract, so we knew he was a good player. But to find gems like players like Ewing, I think that's credit to the club, and obviously players that we can look on to move on for more money. So yeah, if he does go, it'd be with my best wishes, but I hope we are top, and I hope we're not selling. But
I just think there's a togetherness as well in the squad that's not being seen for a while, and I just think that might help as well with does the player want to go, depending on where it is and the offer that they get. But there's a real togetherness that we don't really see. So I'm right next to the tunnel, and when the players are coming off full time, they're all hugs, shaking hands, everything, and it's just real nice to see. So you do wonder if the player would want to go as well, or do they want to see out the season? And I know what you're saying about everyone's got a price, but exactly.
Yeah, but I think Gareth makes a good point. I think of the year before last, I do think that was probably a factor in why Danny Whitehall rebuffed a little bit of interest from York. Certainly seemed to be the story that come out. So yeah, look, if big clubs are looking at our players, it's usually because they're playing well, and if they're playing well, then we're winning games and getting points. So I'd rather have that problem than every other club in every other league thinking that all of our players are shit.
Like the last 5-6 years.
Gareth, give me a score prediction for our trips to Roots Hall. What's going to happen down in Essex?
I'm thinking 0-0, but then I'm thinking I'm stupid because we always concede or score. So I'm just going for a 1-1. I'm going to go for 1-1. I'm going to follow your example, Max.
Marco, what's yours?
2-1 Iron win.
Okay, who's going to score? Who do you see bagging? Is Whitehall back?
Roberts and Whitehall.
Okay, very good, Gaz. If it's 1-1, who's getting the onion bag for us?
Deck Howe.
I like it.
What are you going? You've got to follow up your good form after your 1-1 prediction.
Now, Marco,
don't you dare. Honestly, get to fuck.
Look, I'm one of the few I've seen us win at Southend. Don't get me wrong, it was more than a decade ago, but that's not the point.
Was it Iwaluma?
Yes, it was.
Oh, in that orange kit. The orange night kit was stunning.
Yeah, on a cold, rainy Friday night. Weird. I think Southend have traditionally liked playing games on Friday nights. They
don't lose on Fridays.
They don't like clashing with West Ham. I think they have like quite a lot of competition there.
No, it's Dagenham and Redbridge.
Yes. Now we're talking. Now
we're fixing.
Look, the unbeaten run has to end at some point. I will go for 2-0 Southend.
Oh, I'll cancel my train ticket. I've got a question on here on my notes. I've got Russ Wilcox record ? When do we start talking?
Well, that was 23 games, I believe. Oh no, hang on, no, it was 28, wasn't it? 28.
I think the only reason I put that was the Iron Stats put about our home form.
Yeah,
obviously carried on from last year, and it's phenomenal. And again, it sounds like
crucially, however, we are not at home to Southend.
No, of course not. And look, it's tongue in cheek.
I think what made the Wilcox run even more incredible was that it was from when he took over as well. Look, if we go 28 games unbeaten this season, then I think we might get promoted.
I hope so.
Although I think that year, did we go 28 games unbeaten and end up with about 83, 84 points?
There were lots of draws, weren't there?
Yeah, that won't be enough in this league. Yeah. So look, we'll see on that front. We'll see, and I think that brings us nicely to a conclusion, fellas. There's not anything we've missed in there. Anything you want to desperately crowbar in before we bring the podcast to a close?
No, I'll see you both in Southend.
Excellent. Certainly hope so. Certainly hope so. And yeah, we hope, obviously, with the games coming thick and fast, it's certainly our plan to do a post Southend pod that looks forward to the York game. Obviously, we've done 2 this week. We'll certainly try and do the same next week. And yeah, let's hope we've got another exciting game to talk about, and the Irons' unbeaten run continues. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. This has been another episode of the Iron Hour podcast. Up the Iron.